Hi, my name's Tom, and I want to share about the 32 parts of the body, letting go of identity, and making zines. The 32 parts of the body is a Buddhist meditation on 32 parts of the body, things like the hair of the head, the hair of the body, the feces inside of the body, the oil in the joints, the oil on the skin, the tongue, the eyeballs, the skin, the bones, the spleen, the liver. You get the idea. There's a great website, 32parts.com, that actually has everything. There's some great YouTube videos. One that I really like, I think, is Colombo Dhamma Friends has a video where they guide you through the meditation on the 32 parts of the body, contemplating each part of the body. And they have great visuals if you want to look and see, like, well, what is the spleen? What does that look like, And why would you do this? And it's disgusting. And the point of it is kind of to be disgusting. The Buddha did recommend contemplating the repulsiveness of the body. Well, I guess there's probably a lot of points to it. I think one of those points is that it's probably a meditation that can get you enlightened, because my experience with insight techniques, for me, so this does not apply to the 32 parts of the body, at least in my experience, but it might. So let me make my point. My experience of different types of insight meditation techniques, so that could be noting, body scanning, a concentration, achieving the jhanas, and then going into like a full body awareness. All of these techniques seem to get you to a place of having like a high sensitivity, full body awareness, so you can then try to perceive the three characteristics at a very fine, fast-paced, microscopic sort of level, okay? See the pixels of reality. And this meditation on the 32 parts of the body, I think, might bring you to the same place. It may help you attain some concentration and use that concentration to power up your insight into the three characteristics. So that's one of the reasons to do it. But I've recommended this to people over the years. I've had friends come to me and talk about having problems with lust. I can't concentrate, or I don't feel good because I'm distracted by these feelings of lust. I see girls walk by, and I live in a place where there's just girls walking by all the time. It's on the beach. There's girls in bikinis. And also there's a lot of sex workers. So you just walk down the street and there's just all of these women out there. It could be very distracting. So I like this meditation on the 32 parts of the body, because when you start looking at people and peel off the skin, what do they look like without their skin on? They're not quite as attractive, And actually we find that something like lust, and it's not true just of lust, it could be gluttony and all kinds of feelings, but it's actually something that we fabricate, It's like, oh, I'm thinking about Taco Bell. I remember leaving a meditation course and being like, hey, we're going to go through the city, because we don't have Taco Bell where I live, but in the city there's Taco Bell. And it's like, oh, let's get Taco Bell on the way home. And all of the enjoyment of the Taco Bell is in your head, right? And when you're leaving a meditation course and you have like a high level of sensitivity, Taco Bell is just not good. You're just really actually tasting everything as it is. And you're like, all the textures in my mouth and all of the flavors, it just doesn't feel right. But if I'm all amped up, like, oh man, I can't wait to get some Taco Bell. If it tastes really good, but it's just in my head. It's something that I'm taking the pixels and I'm putting them together and then creating that sensation. And so something like lust is the same thing. If you actually see all of the reality as it is, you're like, oh, this is a bag of bones and meat and pus and blood and water, and there's sweat and there's ugh. But when you put it all together, you can create this feeling, this sensation of lust, right? So the 32 parts of the body, doing this contemplation on the repulsiveness of the body is a great way to combat those distracting thoughts. So I've brought this up to friends, and what I found is that nobody wants to do this, They say, you know what, I'll just pray to God. God, take this feeling away from me. And it's like, sure, you can do that, but these things are not just going to be magically removed, And I'm not saying that we as individuals necessarily have the ability to just look at one of these hindrances like lust and just like pick it apart and say, oh, it's going to be removed now because of my willpower. But we can put ourselves into a process where it will be removed. And doing this kind of meditation, I think, is part of that process. And people don't want to do it because at the root level, they don't really want to let go. They're like, I actually like these feelings. You know, I'm sure for a lot of people, we like these feelings, and like, who would I be if I wasn't constantly obsessed with sex? Who would I be if I wasn't like lustful? Or maybe you take the word lustful and you substitute it for something that sounds like more cool. If I wasn't voracious, who would I be? What kind of man would I be if I wasn't like looking at every girl, or, you know? And it can be scary. Or it's just like, hey, this is what I've known my whole life, or this is this thing that it feels really good. And sure, maybe a large percentage of the time it actually causes bad feelings and problems, but there's that when I get that hit where it hits just right, it feels really good, and I don't want to let go of it. Or maybe I'm overthinking it way too much. Like I'm analyzing what it can be, but I think and a lot of times when I've recommended this to friends, it's just a fear of letting go of your identity, and it's just right there. Maybe they're not articulating all of these different aspects of what that might mean. But just saying there's a feeling that something about you is going to be gone, and that's scary, you know, and there's a future that's maybe better, but you don't know what it is, you know, because this is who I am. I'm a person that has these feelings. And if I let that go, and doing this technique seems like something that's really going to let it go. It's kind of like, if you like drinking, you like doing drugs, it might not be a lot of fun hanging out with certain, you know, with Mormons or whatever, right? It's people who don't validate what you're doing. So here's this meditation that invalidates those feelings of lust. So, yeah, I feel like, you know, we don't want to let go of our identity, and that holds us back, and our identity is not necessarily useful. And I'm not talking about abandoning identity view. That's something different. You know, you abandon identity view upon stream entry, and that's a different thing, but I feel like kind of related. I mean, my ability to let go of pieces of my identity maybe starts to take some obstructions out of the way of doing a practice that actually fully obliterates my idea that I even am an identity, that I even am a thing, you know? But while we're really holding on to the idea that I am a thing, then all the things that make me up, that aggregate of stuff that is me, I got to hold on to all of those pieces because they're all pieces of myself that I don't want to abandon myself, let myself go. So it's very scary, and that's why we stay stuck with things like greed and gluttony and lust and hatred and delusion and all this bad stuff that we don't really want. It really doesn't serve us. So anyway, I'm talking about all this, but I want to talk about how this ties into me making zines. Since that is the overarching theme of my videos, I think, because it's on my mind all the time, and this popped into my head because I was like, I overthink making zines. That's been established. I was like trying way too hard with my concept of what I was going to do, and maybe I'll get to that big concept one day. But I was like, man, if I had to make a zine to go to like an art fair like next week, I could do something like the 32 parts of the body. My zines are 16 pages long. So on one sense, you could say, okay, that's great. So 16 pages, 2 parts of the body per page, done. I could do an illustration, a little description, whatever. Or let's say, okay, it's 16 pages, but there's actually a cover, blah, blah, blah. So maybe I say I want these 32 parts to take up some other number of pages and a couple other pages in there as well that I can use. And that makes a lot of sense because there's the 32 parts of the body. I've already made illustrations of the 4 Brahma Viharas just on one page, like a set of like graphic notes, you know, kind of like some illustration and some words. But you can make a whole book out of the Brahma Viharas. And of course, for me, the first thing, the most important thing always, I guess, I don't know if I want to say that, but the thing that I always start out with, and the first thing that I really want to make a serious zine about, or has to at least be in the front, is the teaching on the greatest blessings. I feel like the greatest blessings give us like a framework of goals, starting out with, don't associate with fools. Live in a suitable place. You know, we start out with these very basic things that actually make a ton of sense, and it's surprising how many people don't achieve these, you know, and they are blessings. I mean, if you're born somewhere really terrible, you're born somewhere really terrible. It doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong. It's just like, it's a blessing to be born somewhere nice. It's something to be grateful for. And if you're not somewhere nice, it's something to work for. It's like the first rung on the ladder is like, let me get somewhere where I can breathe and not have bombs dropping on me or people attacking me or whatever's going on. So these are all the things that are great topics for zines, I think. And it makes sense because my initial push to want to make a zines, before that, I wanted to write a book called Basic Morality. And I have the URL, I have the domain basicmorality.com. And the idea is that even without concentration, even without insight, there's so much to gain from morality. And of course, every religion teaches morality. But I've had so many people, I talk with so many people trying to improve their lives, and they're looking to optimize, basically put lipstick on a pig. It's just start with some basic morality, Don't yell at people. Don't tell lies. Don't steal. Don't hurt people. Don't cheat on your spouse. If you just accomplish these basic things, most people I look at, or most people I've had these conversations with, is if you just clean up this really basic moral stuff, your life would improve enormously. Why are you trying to manage your time better, but you're also cheating on your girlfriend? Fuck managing your time. That's not gonna do anything for you compared to these low-hanging fruit that can make huge improvements. And I also like the idea of I could go on and on. I will in a different time about basic morality. There's different aspects to that. There's basic morality. Also, to me, implies that there is philosophically a more basic take on what morality is, which in short is, and I think maybe Aristotle was in line with this, how to lead a good life. That's what morality is. It's really more of a skill and an exploration. And I feel in today's world, or at least what I've been exposed to of philosophy and how people think about things, we think about morality as making a moral judgment on a situation, right? So the trolley problem, or would you steal bread to feed your family? And it's kind of well, that's kind of stupid. I mean, there's nothing to be gained by thinking that through, You're going to do what you're going to do. We all have to live our lives, and there's no ultimate right answers. I believe in objective morality, but there's no ultimate right answers because we have to get through each situation. And morality is really the skill of being able to know what is the right answer. What's the correct thing to do that's going to make you happy and not make you suffer? And so it's a personal exploration of how to live successfully. That's what I think of morality. And morality is unending, right? This is concentration is kind of finite. Insight is extremely finite, but morality is conditioned, So every condition creates new conditions, and it goes on forever. So also the basic implies that maybe there's advanced morality, And one way I think of this is when people talk about, people get into weird new age stuff about manifestations or magic or whatever. And it's that maybe falls more under advanced morality. And again, let's get your basic morality in check before we start layering on new techniques and, I need the time management and my task lists. And, I want to create this visualization to help me manifest. I'm going to create a sigil. But, okay, I'm not saying that we don't have things work out in our lives, but the path for things working out is way more clear if we have basic morality in place. So that's something to talk about more at another time. But my point is that was the genesis of me wanting to create zines, was hey, maybe this book's not going to make sense, or maybe it would, but there's more to it too. Advice for householders, blah, blah, blah. I can't go into it right now because I'm going to be making videos that are 7 hours long. So I don't want to do that. It's already 15 minutes, already too long. But I think that maybe I could crank out zines, crank them out. I could do zines without overthinking it by taking some of these Buddhist things that I care about and just presenting it. I don't really want to put too much of any of my own interpretation or commentary on it. I don't think that I'm in a position to be creating Buddhist commentaries. That's not, I think that'd be presumptuous of me. But there's people who maybe have never heard of the meditation on 32 parts of the body, or they never heard of the greatest blessings. They don't know the Satipatthana Sutta. There's all kinds of teachings that I'd love to put it in zine form, and then you're hanging out somewhere. It's sitting there in a coffee shop, or it's sitting there at an art show, or it's in a bookstore, or whatever, and you're like, oh, hey, what's this cool hand-drawn, stapled together magazine about the 32 parts of the body? That's weird. And maybe somebody picks it up. So I don't know when I'm going to have time to start doing these, but now I sort of have a target where that'd be one way for me to start getting some zines published, doing something that I feel really good about, that I feel is really useful for the world. And it's not accomplishing some of the mission that I had for creating zines was also pretty ego-based, where it was like, I want to express myself. And well, that's where you get lost, Art for me works best when I just be like surrendered to the process. Hey, when I make, like right now I'm making a video, I'm just like, I'm just going to do it, Or I like to, make videos when I'm doing stuff with my kid and edit together. And it's like, I can't mastermind it. I have whatever footage I have. I edit it the best I can. It's done, right? So in the zines, when I try to be like, I'm going to create this publication that's a real representation of me, it has all of my creative output, blah, 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 that just never works, right? It's better just to be like, hey, I have this process, I'm going to do it. So in creating a zine that the content is really bound by, these are the 32 parts of the body, or these are the 16 steps of breath meditation, or whatever. It's really taking a lot of me out of the equation. And that's actually better, right? The less that I'm involved, the better it's going to be. So maybe some zines about that in the future, get in touch with me if you want to have some. All right. So that was 32 parts of the body, letting go of identity, and how it all ties into making me zines. And thank you so much for checking this out.